Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got a build that I really want to show you today, and a spell that I really want to talk about. So this is my level 200 Spellblade build. So it's not a pure mage. We use our weapons quite a bit and focus on the AoE and melee kind of spells. That's the theme I'm going for this build. And one of the spells that I use is the Rellana's Twin Moon spell. It's an AoE spell. As you can see, it's a lot different than the base game moon spells, which are huge, high damaging projectiles that are very slow moving and a little bit tricky to hit with. This thing can be tricky to hit with, but if you know the situations where it should be used, it's actually pretty easy to use. So it does have hyper armor, and that allows you to get the spell off a little bit better. It's a huge AoE, so you don't have to be super precise with it, and these are the situations where it's good, right here. So we've got 3 people all in a tight space. Managed to do damage to one of them and kill him with the spell. He was AFK anyways, that's fine. And then right there, that's a really nice effect of the spell. So those moons had been kind of fully formed in the cast, right? So you go up in the air, you form those 2 big moons, launch them down. If you get knocked out of the cast before the moons launch, but the moons fully render, they will launch down no matter what, and they're still going to do damage. And you saw I was able to take that guy out who was using the greatsword with the lion's claw, and we were able to kill him, 1-to-1 in a trade there, my spell versus his weapon art. And that's pretty impressive. Now, there's a number of things that you could do with this spell to make it a little bit more powerful. So for starters, you can buff it a little bit. I've got the Carrion Regal Scepter, which gives it a 10% damage buff. So that puts it roughly in line with the Lusat Staff. A lot of people use the Lusat Staff in PvP because you just want to kill your opponent as quick as possible, and the extra FP usage is maybe a little bit more palatable. But when you're using this moon spell, because of the buff that you get on this staff, you are going to be doing the same amount of damage that you'll be doing with Lusat Staff. So forget about Lusats, use the Carrion Regal Scepter. Then you can use the Graven Mass Talisman, that's going to give you an 8% boost, and you can use the Magic Shrouded Cracked here, that's another 12.5%. So altogether, we're getting like a 30% damage boost on our moon spells. In this case, we're only using the Twin Moon spell. I don't really like the other ones for PvP anyways. And that's pretty good. That allows us to really hit like a truck. I've got 80 intelligence. Of course, this is a level 200 build. And I've also got 50 dexterity. So that, coupled with the Radagon's icon, which increases your casting speed, and if you didn't know, dexterity also increases your casting speed, this allows us to get maximum casting speed, and that makes it a little bit easier to hit with the moons, as well as all of the other spells that we use on the build. Okay, now, in addition to the buff that I get from the staff, I'm also using the Graven Mass Talisman and the Magic Shrouded Cracked here, and that's giving me roughly another 20% damage boost on all of my spells, all my magic damage actually, and that's actually a pretty huge damage boost. There's a number of other ways that you could boost this a little bit further. Some of them are kind of realistic, some of them not so much. You can use Terra Magica to create a big radius that you can fight in, and you're going to get another 20-something% damage boost while you fight within that radius. I feel like that setup is a little bit too much, and people could just walk away from it, so I like to just stick with the talismans and the Magic Shrouded Cracked here, and not really have to focus too much on setup by using like an area buff or a debuff or anything like that. So you can make this thing do really high damage. Again, you could dual wield these Regal Scepters to get even more damage. Personally, I'm not a big fan of like the pure mage playstyle, but I know a lot of people really like that, using that a little bit more FP. So in that case, yeah, you could totally use 2 Regal Scepters, and that would boost your damage even further. But yeah, so we've got damage, we've got hyper armor, we've got a pretty good sized AoE, which can catch a lot of people. So it's a pretty good spell. So now we need to talk about what are the situations that you can use it in. Part of that is obvious, when you're in a small room with a lot of people, but there's a little bit more to it than that. So for one, it's a really good spell to use on Wake Up. It's also a really good spell to use when there's an AFK person in the room. So I'll explain that really quick. So when there's an AFK person there, you usually want to kill them pretty quickly. There's 3 people, one of them's not paying attention. Let's kill him before he gets back to his controller. and let's turn this 3-on-1 into a 2-on-1, which is a lot more manageable. So that can be tough to do because the host and his friend are going to be trying to protect the third person. And that's where the Twin Moon spell is really handy. So not only are you going to get that hyper armor to kind of protect yourself a little bit while you're casting the spell, but you do that huge AoE that's not only going to kill the AFK player, but it's probably going to damage the other players that are trying to protect the AFK player, so it's a little bit safer. Now, I mentioned wake up attacks as well. So that's actually a fighting game term, but it talks about when a character is just standing up, the attack that you can pressure them with. So when you knock somebody down with a backstab, a riposte, or you flatten them or send them flying with some kind of heavier attack like a weapon art, Giant's Hunt, Lion's Claw, something like that. It's an attack that you can queue up right as they're getting up off the ground that's going to pressure them and make it difficult for them to dodge. You just want to put a lot of pressure on them and put them in a situation where if they panic and make a mistake, they're pretty much going to be dead. So this is a really good spell to use in that situation. And because it's a really good wake-up spell, parrying is a really nice fit for this kind of build as well. On a Spellblade, of course, we're going to be doing a little bit more melee-focused combat, and because I'm using a katana, I don't really do the amount of stun damage that I could do with other weapons, and just the amount of damage overall. So having a parrying tool goes a long way towards getting people off you when they're really pressuring you, and gives us an opportunity to queue up wake-up attacks if we are able to get the riposte on somebody. Now, there's a couple other spells that I think also pair really well with this moon spell. One of them would be the glint blade phalanx, whichever one you decide to use, and that's the spell where you get the glint blades that float around your head. And one nice thing you can do with that spell is if you don't lock on to your opponent, those glint blades won't shoot off, even if you get in range, right? So what you can do is kind of chase people around with the glint blades. You can try to do like a running attack, and if they dodge the running attack, you could lock on at the last second, have the glint blades shoot off, and kind of roll catch them a little bit. If you do hit them with your running attack, then your glint blades are just going to follow that, and you're just going to do a huge combo that gives you, a ton of like stagger build up on your enemy. You're going to make them flinch pretty hard, and you might be able to chain all of that into another light attack. Not entirely sure, but I think you could play around and find some combos there. But it's another really nice thing you could do with the Twin Moon, because what you want to do is make people panic and make people roll and not, really know where they're going. You want to get somebody close to a corner, close to a smaller room, and just make it so that they can't really get past you, they can't really run away. So here's a perfect example here. We've got the host and the hunter who decides to actually team up with the hunter this time. They want to kill the rats to have a clear place to fight and not have enemies at their back. But they take a little too long to clear out the rats, and this is a dead end. So as soon as I get to about the distance where I think that blast is going to cover everything between me and the wall, and then a little bit of distance going the other way as well, I figured there's really no way that they can run out of this, and the only way they're going to get out of that situation is if they dodge the attack appropriately, which is to actually jump the attack every time it lands. Now, one more little combo that I'll mention that I didn't really show in this video would be to use Miriam's Vanishing. So Miriam's Vanishing is the little directional teleport thing that has iframes that you can use on a magic build. You get it in the DLC. It doesn't do damage or anything like that. It's just a little teleport. But if you queue up the teleport and then you immediately try to queue up your next spell, you'll kind of start casting it a little bit early. That's another way that you could get into some of the spells that have a slightly longer spell casting time without people seeing what you're doing. Honestly, I didn't really think about that until after I had done all these clips, so next time I play with this build, that's definitely something I'm going to try. But yeah, I think that would be probably a really nice technique, using the Miriam's Vanishing to get right in close to people, potentially to get right behind them, and then start queuing up that spell. I think it'll make people kind of panic a little bit. They're not going to know which way to roll at first, and I think it would look pretty badass as well. And it's always nice when your clips look badass, right? I try to get, the the best clips I can. But truth be told, like I'm not a great invader myself. I'm a little bit. I would say I'm relatively new as an invader, relatively in that I didn't invade in any of the past Souls games, although I have played all of them. I never invaded until now, and I didn't invade until Elden Ring was about 2 years old. So honestly, that's why a lot of these tips and tricks that I try to share. I mean, I hope they're helpful, but they're kind of top of mind for me because I'm actually just learning them myself. But anyways, I'll give you a quick look at the build here. This is a level 200 build, 80 intelligence, 50 dexterity, so more of a Spellblade setup. Decent amount of mind as well. That's really important. For the talismans, we're boosting the spells with the Graven Mass Talisman and Godfrey's Icon, which helps for the charged spells. And I really like the faction that I put together. So that's the Ronin's Greaves and Blythe's Gauntlets. And then you can see it's the Cerulean Hood and Rellana's chest piece. You guys know I always mention the fashion. I'm really proud of that look. I hope you guys like it as well. I hope you liked the invasions, and I'll catch you next time.